What's up, you guys? This is Beat the Odds NFL edition on OddsChecker. I'm Katelyn Heffler, along with my co-host. Go ahead and introduce yourself, you guys.
I'm Nate Tice. You can find me mostly on the Athletic Football Show, but also find me on just Twitter at Nate_Tice. I just do a lot of football breakdowns, NFL and college. And my other co-host over here is Justis.
Yeah, Justis Mosqueda. You guys have probably read me some form or fashion, gambling, draft, Packers stuff. Right now I'm working for SB Nation. Find me on Twitter at JUMOSQ. If you want to look into this chronic football brain, basically.
And Chihuahua pictures.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right.
You got that. You got those two markets cornered.
Now, before we get started and get into our picks, we will be bringing you guys NFL picks and takes this entire season, week after week. So make sure to follow OddsChecker so you can see our uploads every single week. And, once we go through our picks, we will end this video with our picks of the week each and every week. Okay, well, let's get started. I know you guys have one game in particular that you both are interested in, so let's get started.
Yeah, I was a little bit of a coward on this one. I had it in parentheses as like I might talk about this, but Justis said he liked it, so I want to hear what Justis feels about it. So it's Jets +5. But I want to hear what Justis's take on it is.
Yeah, I ended up studying the Jets preseason offense a lot, just to kind of see what that looks like. I think Zach Wilson's in very good hands. They're doing a lot of innovative stuff on the offensive end. I think Corey Davis is going to be a little bit unlocked, kind of like how Green Bay uses like Devontae Adams, for example. They're just getting the ball in his hand real quick, backside of runs, all that. And then, obviously they're running the LaFleur-Shanahan stuff offensively, which is, nice for a young quarterback. And it seems like Zach Wilson, he can throw on the move, and that's what they're going to ask him to do. So I have kind of high hopes for that offense early on. I'd be pretty surprised if they weren't clicking based off of what they did in the preseason. And then on the flip side, Carolina, they got Sam Darnold, Nate Tice's boy under center.
Darnold
I don't
revenge
know how
game.
it's going to work out, man. Plus, it's, revenge game for the Jets. I know there's not that many Jets still left over from the Sam Darnold era, but, some of them got to be chomping at the bit because he cost them a couple games. I know that Jets defense is a little suspect, especially with, Carl Lawson getting hurt. They need that pass rusher, and especially in the way Robert Saleh runs that defense. I don't know if Shaq Lawson, who they just recently traded for, is the answer, but at the very least, they have guys on the interior who can press the pocket. So I think that's going to be a fun game. And honestly, just the anxiety in that game immediately. Week one, hey, here's your ex, right?
Yeah. Play your old team right away. Like, I know, not even like no intrigue built. It's just like, nope, right away. We're throwing you right back in it. Not preseason, regular season, week one. No, I honestly, your breakdown, because the Packers played the Panthers this preseason, and your breakdown of the game is what kind of I was optimistic about LaFleur's offense, just knowing what I know and knowing what the baseline of that offense is. It's really hard to F up. So it's getting a rookie quarterback, but that's one of the reasons why I did like it. And the strengths of each team, like I see this game almost being a shootout, and with the Jets tit for tat with the Panthers the whole time. I don't see the Panthers having the talent level to be +5 on anybody or -5 on anybody this season. So that actually surprised me. I thought this game would be more like a -3 line. So I just think the Jets are a little better than people realize. They have some talented young guys. They're a year away most likely, but like you said, Corey Davis looks great in that offense right now. The line's going to be nice, or improving, I should say. And also just like defensively, they're okay, but they are built up front. They have a really good D-line that can actually maybe take advantage of the Panthers' O-line, who I think is just more average. So that's kind of why I really like the Jets there. I just thought it was more maybe they might not straight up win, but I think they're going to be hanging in that game more than people realize. And as I am a Sam Darnold fan, but I have to see a little bit more of this season with Sam Darnold and the Joe Brady offense than just diving right in week one. And I'll probably go to a next game, though. So just like I'm actually still shocked that we have so many just different games that we ended up liking, which is I guess scary and good
across
at the
the
same
board.
time. Yeah, but the game that this is not my pick of the week, but it's another game I feel pretty good about. And it's Titans -3 over the Cardinals. And why I like that game, I think the Titans offense matches up well against a lot of teams, but especially against what the Cardinals are trying to do. Cardinals, their defense is built up front. They got J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, but they're young linebackers who are talented, but not very. They still have a little bit ways to go of being like a true NFL linebacker as far as their eyes and all that fun stuff. And they don't have any corners. I mean, they might be playing Robert Alford. So I just feel like the Titans offense is just going to overwhelm the Cardinals defense. And then the Cardinals offense, which can be very up and down depending on their matchup. I don't know. I don't know how they'll match up against the Titans defense, even if it's not a strength. So I'm betting more on the Titans offense, just kind of like truly running away with the game, just running the ball, hitting a couple shot plays to Julio and AJ Brown, and then just kind of like putting the game away fairly earlier than you would think. Kind of one of those games, maybe the score looks closer than actually the game was.
Right. And, I really don't like betting on totals in week 1, but if there was one that I'd start thinking about the over on, it'd be that game. Because I think both of those defenses are kind of in a transition period, especially in the secondary, even, the Titans losing Adoree Jackson this offseason and stuff like that. I'm going to give 2 picks because the analysis on this first pick is going to be very short. Jacksonville at Houston. Houston's a 2.5-point underdog at home. I mean, battle of the minds between Jack Esterby and Urban Meyer right here, right? So this game would mean that Jacksonville would be an 8.5-point favorite at home. That line does not make sense to me. Yeah. That doesn't make sense. Like Jacksonville hasn't done anything this offseason to kind of prove to us that they aren't anything other than the Jaguars plus Trevor Lawrence. And I don't know if that makes them more than a touchdown favorite against an NFL team. Next game, Cleveland at Kansas City. Cleveland's a 6-point dog on the road. I think that's probably a fair line, but Cleveland's got to come out just storming out the gate. I mean, we're talking about this Cleveland team that, obviously John Dorsey's there. He's doing a lot of stuff, be it, picking up Akeem Hunt when NFL teams don't want to touch him, or Malik McDowell being added after, an ATV accident almost, ruined his career. And then Jadeveon Clowney just like kicking the tires on like, let's see how much gas he has in the tank. Well, all that stuff is only possible when your quarterback is being paid $50 million a year.
Yeah.
So like the window for the Browns kind of ends once you pay Baker. So like this is the window. So if you're not coming just like shot out of a cannon week 1, that's kind of a reflection of like, what was this all even for then, right? So like Cleveland right now, I think they have to be like locked. Like if they haven't circled this game for months, they've been making a mistake because it's a very important game coming out the gate.
Especially with the division they're in right now, with Baltimore is kind of taking a breath this year. I mean, they're still going to be very good. They were my pick to win the division, but still, it's like they're not as maybe 2 years ago's team, which was like a superpower. And then the Steelers are going through a weird phase right now with their whole entire franchise right now, especially with Big Ben on it. So like you said, this is the window. They have Baker on a rookie deal. It's like they're trying to strike right now.
This is it. This is it.
And they match up fairly well, like, because they're not going to ask Baker to drop back 30 times. They want to move him and, get him all over the place. So that actually helps just what they're asking him to do, because what the Chiefs are going to do on defense is, Spags is going to run his stuff. So it's going to be crazy. It's going to be ridiculous on like all the blitzes and stuff, but Baker's going to be put in situations just because they run the ball and play all the bootleg stuff that he doesn't have to worry about it as much as maybe some other teams that drop back their quarterback over and over and over. No, that was another one I looked at. And I would have gone the same way. I ended up going my next game, but the Browns +6 is intriguing because, like you said, all those reasons you pointed out, it's going to be a good game. I'm really excited for that one. But going to a different side, I went with Washington +1 over the LA Chargers. And I've been part of the hype train for the Chargers a little bit this offseason, and just because I really like the quarterback, Justin Herbert. I really like the head coach, Staley. He did really nice things with the Rams. Having said all that, they still have a lot more glaring holes than people realize on defense. And on top of that is that their offense is going to be good. I really do think it's going to be a good offense. But Washington's got ridiculous defense, one of the top 3-4 defenses in the whole NFL, who are built strong up front, and their offense is fine. I would say their offense would be okay with Ryan Fitzpatrick back there. So it's one of those where it's like Washington's at home, they're underdogs +1. I just kind of, I don't know. I do not see that. I see that being more of an even matchup than I think people realize. And so that's why I'm leaning towards that. I think Washington's defense keeps them in the game and tries to slop it up and make it more of an ugly 2017 type game as opposed to maybe one that's a little more electric.
The other thing, too, is, I mean, Stafford didn't play in the preseason. And, I mean, these are his first live reps, I mean, outside of the joint practices that they had. So
No, this is the Chargers.
Oh, my bad. I thought, I saw Los Angeles. Oh, no.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
yeah,
First one of the year. It's week one for everyone.
It's week one for everybody.
My next bet, Monday Night Football, Baltimore at Las Vegas. The Raiders are 4.5-point underdogs at home. That is a stark number, especially for, a late kick West Coast time. That would mean Baltimore, if this game was in Baltimore, they'd be 10.5-point favorites. That's a lot for a team that, when they get tested against like playoff caliber talent, the offense isn't necessarily consistent. And if there's anything that you could say about the Raiders, whether, they're making dumb trades sometimes, sometimes they're making crazy acquisitions for veteran guys, bad draft picks. But if nothing else, John Gruden can move the football. I mean, that's never been the question. John Gruden, as an offensive play caller, offensive structure guy, probably top, I don't know. It's top. If it's not top 5, it's close.
It's everything else with him. That's
right.
the worry. It's not the offensive play caller. That's the funny part.
Right. So just the consistency of the offense versus, the Raiders, who you can kind of hang your hat on that, plus the fact that, I think a lot of people think that like this passing game is just going to progress, but they lost a tackle and Rashad Bateman just went on IR. Those are tough things to handle for a football team. And I don't necessarily know if all of that's going to be figured out by week 1, honestly.
Yeah.
So.
It's one of those, I agree with that, where it's like maybe week 10, this line made a little more sense as opposed to week 1 where really it's football, it's NFL, anything can happen, but it's also Ravens, I think, are going to have to ease into what they want to do this year. So that's more of a close, I think that game would be a little closer than the line suggests. For my next one, I'm staying with the AFC West. I'm going with the Broncos -2.5. But with the Broncos, it's why I've liked them this whole offseason. This line over the Giants, I originally had them. I think it was like a pick 'em originally, and then was -1, and now it's bumped up to -2.5 for the Broncos. And with that, Broncos, if you just did not include the quarterback position, are probably one of the most loaded 21 other starters. Like if they can battle with anybody. They have one of the most deepest rosters, like just really good starting 21 players. And then they have Teddy. I like this bet a lot more with Teddy than I would with Drew Lock. Drew Lock, I could see the Broncos winning by 2 touchdowns or also losing by 3 touchdowns. Like just because he's so many high variance player. But with Teddy, it's a little more steady Eddie. I didn't even mean the rhyme there, but it works. But that makes more sense with him there in this line. I feel more comfortable betting on the Broncos here. I just think their defense, especially up front with Chubb and Von Miller, are going to terrorize the Giants O-line, who have struggled a little bit last year. I mean, they flashed at the end of the year, but Andrew Thomas has had a rough preseason. The rest of the line just looks okay, and the Broncos up front are ridiculous. Daniel Jones isn't really scary throwing the ball, even with the weapons that they are trying to have there. And that's the joke we made about the Broncos this offseason, is they took Patrick Surtain, who's talented, extremely talented, when they probably should have taken a quarterback, but they took him. But it's like they put their top 10 corner on the bench. Like he doesn't have to start right away because they're so loaded in defensive backfield. I just think the Broncos are just so much more talented than the Giants. And it's one of those games where it's like, even on the road, I think their talent wins out, and Teddy's not going to make any mistakes where the Giants can kind of hang in that game. They'll just overwhelm them over a whole game.
Right. And I think, that matchup specifically between the quarterbacks, obviously, they're not playing against each other on the field, but it's not like Daniel Jones is like a win condition, where it's like, oh man, we can't, you're not pulling up in the bus up to the stadium being like, this Daniel Jones, man, we just got to stop him.
We got to count for him.
That's not what this is. We ready for picks of the week? I got mine.
I got mine. Let's hear yours.
All right. Green Bay at New Orleans, right? So this game is going to be in Jacksonville. everything happening in Louisiana right now, right? If you can find it in your heart to help someone out, that'd be good. I know one of my buddies down in Louisiana, he just got his power back yesterday, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, people are talking about like, hey, what is that going to look like in terms of the fan split? Like, Packers are going to take it over. The Packers have taken over Jacksonville when it was the Jaguars playing there, not even the Saints. So, I don't think travel is really kind of on the Saints fans' like top priorities list right now. So I think that kind of breaks in favor of Green Bay in the first part. The second thing is just where these offenses are really different. Green Bay's going into the third year of this offense. They bubble wrapped everyone this preseason. They really don't seem to have like any level of urgency to kind of test those guys in the preseason because they know what they have outside of the offensive line, which are the guys that they tested. Now you look at New Orleans and it's, hey, Drew Brees isn't our quarterback for the first time in like 15 years. That's different, right?
A little scary.
Yeah, especially so this is the first time Jameis is like really kind of taking the reins in New Orleans. And then the fact that Michael Thomas isn't there. You know, I was talking with our buddies Deontay Lee and Seth Galina from Pro Football Focus this last week, and they were talking about how, you know, how tough it is as like an NFL defensive coordinator when you have a guy like Alvin Kamara in the backfield and then, you know, Michael Thomas is lining up in the slot. And it's really hard to handle functionally having like 2 top 15 slot threats essentially come, you know,
run everything.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So you can't rotate to both sides of the field. Yep. You know, those guys are split. Yep. Well, Michael Thomas isn't there anymore. So now you look at New Orleans, right? And then Jameis Winston, you know, he obviously is a little risky when he's throwing the ball, but they don't really have guys that are like deep downfield threats that he's really attacking. And that it cuts both ways with Jameis, right? All the time we see it. Like he can win you ball games, he can lose you ball games. Mm-hmm. You talked about Teddy being like the steady Eddie guy, right? Like Jameis is polar opposite. But he doesn't have those guys right now. So it's going to be interesting to see because New Orleans, the way that they win the game, right? They have a better defensive line than the Packers have an offensive line right now. Because the Packers are going to start 2 rookie offensive linemen. Ellen Jacobs is going to play left tackle because David Bakhtiari is on the PUP list. Well, what does that really mean, right? Are you going to stop Aaron Rodgers with that alone? And then you flip onto the other side, and New Orleans doesn't really have the skill guys to kind of take advantage of Green Bay. They have a great offensive line, but you got to basically hope like Jameis gets no turnovers. You're just controlling the ball the entire time. You're pounding the rock with Alvin Kamara because he's the one workhorse you got going into the game, and you just lean into that offensive line. But if it starts getting out of hand, it's tough to kind of envision a way that New Orleans can get back into it. And that's why I think 4.5 provides value to Green Bay, because I think if this thing starts sputtering, I think this could be a multi-score, you know, win for Green Bay.
Where Breeze was a machine in a 2-minute operation, and you know, because quick game and all that stuff. That's what Jameis gives you is the play action game is back and all that in the shot plays. But that's the thing is the Packers can nickel and dime you and then shot you and then like go up 2 scores, 3 scores, 17-0, you know, 20-3 real quick. And that's what's scary for the Saints this entire year. I think if you're going to ask James to drop back over and over and over, that's a lot of quarterbacks, but it's like, that's scary. You know, it's a tough matchup for him, like right off the bat. And I want to see the Packers defense. That's still one of my most intriguing things to watch of any team this entire year. So that's why I'm staying away from this game betting, but like, that's such a good point to bring up, because it's just like, when you have Breeze, it's a nice warm blanket always to have, like, you know, if for the
even
Saints,
when his arm died, you just still trust it, right? Like he can only throw 35 yards, but that's fine. Hey, you can put it on Michael Thomas for the slant, and that's not what they have.
Those go balls were completed at 20 yards instead of 40. You know, that's all it became. But it was like that was always, you knew you're going to be in the game and stuff. So that's what's so scary with Jameis. It's like you said, it could get ugly. Like just a couple picks happen and boom, they can't run the ball anymore. They have to actually pass. That gets a little scary with Jameis. For my pick of the week, kind of funny, we both went with kind of the team I'm associated with, even though I don't cheer for them, but I went with the Vikings -3 over the Bengals. And kind of for me, it's funny that this went down from 3.5 to -3. This is more on betting against the Bengals than betting for the Vikings.
How dare you? Twitter.com is
oh my God.
Joe Burrow. How
we did
dare
our
you?
AFC North preview this week, and we went in on the Bengals a little bit. I still like Joe a lot, but yeah, Bengals fans are not happy with me right now. But it's where they're at. I think they're going to take some time just to get even their optimized version of what they want in 2021. They're very much a rebuilding team. They're very much just young pieces and just no identity on offense and defense. And those type of teams usually have to wait until the bye before they kind of like take a step, take a leap. And then you'll see like the 49ers in Shanahan's first year. Like just a lot of teams, they take that nice the Chargers last year with Herbert after his bye week. You know, they kind of just get a nice little influx of like they reassess of where they're at.
I mean, even
That's
Tampa
why.
last year. I mean, we thought the first half of the season Tampa was going to miss the playoffs entirely, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. Like sometimes it just takes time.
They look like a solid 10-6 team, and all of a sudden they hit the bye week, and they're like, "Oh, we're just leaning into stuff that Tom Brady does really well." And that was a really good philosophy to have. but that's the same with the I think with the Bengals. It's just that's how a lot of teams are, especially young teams. And on the flip side is I just think the Vikings have Mike Zimmer is the greatest third down practitioner, like game planner on offense or defense in the entire league. And with Zimmer on just getting the third down, I just think he's going to terrorize this Bengals pass scheme, you know, just a protection scheme. They're going to try and go to empty. He's going to beat that. I just think this offensive line struggles with anything just coming across their face, and Zimmer's one of the best at doing that. So that's why I just think they're going to make it real ugly for the Bengals. And I don't think that the Bengals have a defense that they can truly rely on for 4 quarters. Might make a couple plays, but it's like there's no real game changers. So I just think this offense, they don't really have to worry up front. That's the Vikings' biggest weakness, like that broken record right there. That's been like the last like decade. So weakness up front, they don't really have to worry about that against the Bengals. So I just think they match up really well against the Bengals, where they can just run the ball, run their play action stuff, and just have a nice kind of like clean win to start the year. So that's my pick of the week is the Vikings over the Bengals.
So if you're playing the Bengals, right? You're pulling up in the bus. Who are you worried about? Like, is it Jesse Bates at safety? Is it Joe Mixon? Is Joe Mixon even a top 5 running back? Like, that's kind of – it's year 3, Zach Taylor. It's year 3. You need to show some proof of concept at some point, man.
That's what Robert and I were talking about is that I'm higher on I like T. Higgins a lot. So that's why I never saw the need that was like, we need to get a receiver. It's like, you're fine. You're a rebuilding team with a young quarterback who just lost this rookie year because he blew out his knee. It's like, shouldn't you guys take that as a sign of where you build your team? Like, shouldn't that like all the stars align that you should help them up front or defensively up front? Like that, I don't know. That just made sense to me. Or a corner, because I mean they're starting Trey Waynes and a Woozy from the Cowboys. Like, and it's like
rejects. People let him walk out of the building.
And actually, something happened. I think Eli Apple actually might have to start this week. And it's just. Yeah, so that's why it's more like I'm picking against the Bengals than picking for the Vikings, but I do think the Vikings do match up so well because it's like really up front. You have Trey Hendrickson, who's like, you know, he's really a number 3, number 2 rusher. I'm not really scared. He looks like a long snapper anyways, so it's like I'm not as petrified as him, like especially with my offensive line. It's like, all right, we don't really need chip help every time. So yeah, Vikings again.
Well, for my pick of the week, I have to go with the matchup between the 2 Alabama quarterbacks. So I'm picking Patriots -3. Super shocked about the Patriots releasing Cam Newton. Did not see it coming. Still don't know if I like it or not yet, but I am pretty excited about Mac Jones, see what he can really do with this team. Seems like obviously Belichick's got a lot of confidence in him, and I think Mac Jones just overall is super reliable, and he's kind of proven that so far up to this point. So super excited to see this matchup this week. And I think that's all for today, guys. This was our week 1 NFL picks on Beat the Odds NFL edition. And we will be here next week and every week after this entire season. So we will catch you guys next week with some more picks.